Today on the Reality Pill, we have the model surgeon. Her name is Dr. Sheila Nazarian. She's a very good friend of mine. She is an incredible teacher, runs her practice like nobody else I've ever seen, and is kind enough to talk to me today on the Reality Pill to tell other surgeons the realities of what goes into building a practice like this, as well as some secrets she has, and shares some ideas on patient care. I love picking her brain because I always learn something every single time I talk to her. She has an amazing conference she puts on called the Nazarian Institute, where she's had amazing guests, and even Kris Jenner came to the last one, who is an incredible person. So we always learn so much from Dr. Nazarian. Thank you so much for allowing us again the opportunity to learn from all of your wisdom.
Hey.
Saludos desde Venezuela. All right. Oh, so this is actually good. We could do this in Farsi, Spanish, or English.
I know. Vamos a hablar en español.
Okay, we may begin. So we have Dr. Sheila Nazarian, which everybody knows from every TV show ever, every Instagram account you'd ever want to follow. She is known as the model surgeon because she's so good looking, but in the medical world,
I'm so ethical.
You're a role model surgeon. And in the medical world, everybody knows her from her numerous lectures that people go die to sit in on all over the place. And I think yours is, out of lectures that I've seen, it's the most syndicated one. So yeah, when people give lectures, when they see yours, it's all over everybody's page, which is awesome. So today we get the master of the Nazarian Institute here to help us understand what's been happening to both of us, which is how much our clarity on life has changed in a matter of 1 week, which is, I'd say, things that we had maybe briefly thought about and never really realized fully.
I think we both started kind of at the same time, right, Ben?
Yeah.
And I remember, you remember 2 years out, you called me and you're like, let's go into a practice together. Let's go into an office together. And I was like, you're going to kill it. I'm going to kill it. We're going to kill it. But yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that it took a pandemic for us to reevaluate, pause, slow down, reassess, and sort of figure out what our priorities are and what our goals are going to be moving forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I've changed everything. So for me, work is not really work. You can't get me to stop working.
Yeah.
And through all this, and this is what I always told myself, because I was working 5:30 a.m. to 9 p.m. for 4 years straight, and then and that's 6 days a week. And then I got heart arrhythmia on I got PVCs, so I backed off, and then 6 to 9, then 6:30 to 8, and I kept backing off, and I kept telling myself, you know what, this is not sustainable. You got to relax. And for the past 2-3 years, I've been trying to take off Mondays, which I haven't. So this forced me into it. And the first day off, I didn't go through that whole phase that everybody else is going through about panicking about their work and employees and business and the reality of the world. I'm good at ignoring reality. I laid there and I thought to myself, oh my God, this is what it's like to sleep and not have to do anything. Because I don't have a day where I don't do anything. If I sit still, I'm so used to the pace, I have to keep thinking. My brain doesn't take a rest. And I have to travel. I have to go do something. I can't sit still. I have to grow somehow.
Yeah, I hear that.
And this really, really calmed me down. And I kept telling myself for years, I'm never going to retire. I love what I do. I love operating. I love cutting people. It's really I love it, and I get bored if I don't.
Yeah.
Realistically now, I look at it, I'm like, you know what? I can retire. And just having that reality in my head, that thought in my head is going to change the way I do things now.
Yeah. I mean, I think I sort of came to the realization, because I'm a mom, I have 3 kids also. I have an 8-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 12-year-old. So coming out of residency 7 years ago, where we were at that pace that you've continued, that kind of pace, you've continued a residency pace. I sort of had to come to the realization that my kids are going to end up on crack if I continue at that pace, because my husband's a neurosurgeon, so he's not going to be taking that role. And maybe it's old school, maybe it's super Persian, but I just think a mom is a mom and nobody can replace the mom. So what I decided is, instead of operating at 7 a.m, I start my cases at 9. And that allowed me to take my kids to school. Well, who else is going to take them to school, right? So it just hit me, and I was like, well, who says I have to be in the operating room at 7? You know, I can get my kids ready in the morning. I can, you know, take them to school. At least I have that time with them. And then I start my cases at 9. The patients don't have to wake up at 4 freaking in the morning. They wake up at like 7:30 and they stroll into the surgery. They don't have to like kill themselves to wake up early. And that was like one of my first moments that I was like, okay, I can sort of set my own schedule here. I don't have to be running it. I'm not a resident anymore. I'm no one's bitch anymore. I can set my own schedule. So that was one. And then I actually did start taking Mondays off. And by off, I mean like paperwork, filming, TV. Like I'm still working, but I'm not seeing patients on Mondays, or I'm seeing maybe famous people or like influencers or things like that where we're filming, and that's become my Mondays. And then I operate Tuesday and Thursday, and I'm in the clinic Wednesday and Friday doing all the non-surgical stuff. So that's sort of been, you know, my evolution as a surgeon. But this especially, like having the time to just pause and like do all of the virtual and literal cleanup of our household. Like, and by virtual, I mean, I found like 3 apps on my credit card statement bill yesterday. I don't even know what they are. Like I've been paying monthly for them.
Tinder.
Not the Tinder. I was married like 15 years ago. But no, it's just like these weird like social apps that like for editing video, and so I don't know what the hell they are. So I just like right there, I save some money there, and like going through my apps on my phone and organizing them, going through my emails and unsubscribing from like every freaking clothing store that I was brainwashed to check every single day. I literally walk into my closet now and I'm like, why? Why do I have like 40 handbags? Why do I need this many pairs of shoes? So it's sort of like resetting my priorities and what's important to me. And also the other way I hope that this sort of does a huge shift in our professional lives is I hope, you know, when you talk to kids, I posted about this on my Instagram today. When you talk to a kid, including my kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? They're like, I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be an Instagram girl. I want to like they don't say I want to be a doctor anymore. Like when we were growing up, I know for you too, because we come from the same cultural background. It was like, you get a choice. You could be a dentist, a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer. Pick.
An engineer, yeah.
There were no other jobs. Like I seriously, like every single day, I'm like shocked to see how many different kinds of jobs there are, because growing up, there were 4 jobs and you just got to pick. But nowadays the kids, like they want like fame and quick money, and nobody thinks about, I want to help people. I want to inspire people. And I think this pandemic has really sort of shifted that a little bit, and people see healthcare professionals as, you know, for the sacrifices they've made, for how much they inspire people. And I'm really grateful for that. So.
Yeah, I think people are getting I feel like when I go to other countries and I go to Texas and other states, like the respect that you're given kind of as a doctor, and I'm not saying I need any respect, but like it's really nice. Like there's more trust, and they listen to you, and they're less, I'd say, like rampantly independent in their courageous thought processes of being like Dr. Google and things like that. You know?
Well, I think what's happened too, especially because of social media, and it's 2-pronged. Part of it's all our fault. I think that we've for too long thought I can just wave my diploma in the air and people are going to believe what I say and they're going to listen to me. And we've stayed out of social media. We've stayed out of where the young people and our age people are hanging out. And so it's created this vacuum where people who mostly are getting paid to say this product or this trip or whatever it is, and people trust that because there's been a vacuum left behind. Whereas I hope another major seismic shift that's going to happen is that people go back to science, and people go back to evidence, and people go back to listening to experts. Like, you know, that expert doctor that's all over TV, what's his name?
Fauci?
The older gentleman with the gray hair. He's
Fauci?
Advising
Trump.
Yeah, he's advising Trump.
Yeah,
so
Fauci.
He's like everywhere now. Nobody would have freaking listened to this guy 2 weeks ago, right? But people are thirsty for expert advice now. And I hope that instead of, you know, Dr. Google, or instead of going on Instagram and somebody saying something smells good, that people start listening to experts again and looking for scientifically proven things.
Yeah,
So
there's a stark difference between how an oblivious person, and I don't mean like, in a rude way, oblivious, just like they
yeah,
just don't know shit that they're talking about, versus
yeah,
somebody who really is intelligent and grounded. And so, you see other people on the podium before Fauci just saying like crazy shit. And then
yeah,
Fauci comes on, and Fauci doesn't give anything he doesn't know.
right,
He's saying, well, this is what I hope it would be. I don't know if it's that. It's my job to prove that. And so,
right.
and nothing has persuaded him to flex, his morals, or flex the way
Yeah,
he
and the other thing is
talks
they
about
try to get
things.
him to be political,
He
whatever
won't
show
do it.
he's
Yeah.
on, and he won't do it. He just like, flips it
Yeah.
and makes it science-based
He's an
again.
expert in his field, and that's it.
I love
He
it.
doesn't want to talk about anything else. He doesn't
Yeah, I
know
love it.
anything else. And so that's, that's his world. And that's, I try to be like that, but I open my mouth about a lot of things, but I
Yeah,
always have the same kind of, response, which is like, if I don't know about something, I always end it with, well, I don't know. This is what I think. I don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, it is nice that people can see that. He's a good example.
Yeah, he's been awesome. But I
Yeah,
also
good.
think it's awesome that he's getting so much airtime now and people are just thirsty for his thoughts and facts.
Yeah. So, I mean, right now I'm getting texts from every single friend I have who's playing Dr. Google, and they're Googling things, and they say, hey, Ben, can you prescribe me this? And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
And like, why?
Yeah,
I'm like, I
same.
can't sit here and just tell you the 50,000 reasons why you shouldn't be but I heard it's good. I'm like, well, I could tell you the other reasons why it's bad. I go, just trust me. I'm like, I had to, I'm like, before I was able to give you this response, I had to do 4 years of undergrad wasting my life. I had to do 4 years of
Yeah.
med school miserable.
Yeah.
And then I had to practice and then figure things out after that. I'm like, I don't know how you're
Exactly.
figuring it out in two days of Googling. I'm like, you're very
Right.
impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's good to see though that people are starting to get that with like horror stories that are coming out, and it's not good to see the horror stories, but people are getting it that they have to stop playing Dr. Google.
Yeah.
So we're getting hit with a lot of different realities at once. Most of them are very, very helpful. There's videos I've seen going around about coronavirus now that they're just saying, thank you, coronavirus. Like, thank you
Yeah.
for waking me up. Thank you. And it goes back to like, I think I saw a TED Talk by Bill Gates. I don't know if you saw that one from 2015. And the whole time he was talking about, we need to wake up. The biggest threat to us right now is not Iraq. It's not these countries. It's a viral epidemic or pandemic happening.
I didn't see that. That's crazy.
Yeah, and he went over it. He goes, we're not ready for it. We don't know what we're going to do if it happens. Nobody's spending money on this. We're spending money on, missiles and all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he talks about all that. And then you have other people saying, okay, when these things happen, you're going to wake up and see what's really important. And I don't remember a time in our history, because we haven't been through a world war,
Mm-hmm.
when the whole world kind of woke up at the same time. And they're all saying like, oh shit, okay, these are our priorities.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm listening to like interviews from the past, and it's similar when they were going through like World War stuff, and everybody thought the world was going to end. It kind of shakes people and wakes them up and makes them prioritize what they want to do and appreciate the family more. And I think even now, I'm like I love my family, but I'm a very bad, I'd say like family person, because I'm always so busy.
Yeah, same. I always say I'm the worst friend.
I'm the worst. My friends have always been complaining about me since, because
Yeah.
I don't stop. Even in residency, I didn't stop. And in med school, if I'm not learning, I'm going and doing something else, and I don't stop. And I don't have time for my friends, unfortunately. Now we sit here and we're like FaceTiming every day, and we got to talk. And I'm still busy because I'm trying to do all this stuff. But
Yeah.
But
Ben, what do you think made you that way? Did you have like a loss as a child? Why do you think makes you not stop?
I've just always been like that. Like I like to improve things. And so, I mean, that's like the most basic way I can put it. I like to be better at things. I like if I go make the house clean, I want to keep going, and then I want to start building on it. Then I want to put up a shelf. Like I wired my parents' house for cable when I was like 8 years old.
Yeah.
Like I actually wired the house. I was building shelves. I was doing a lot of carpentry as a kid. Like,
Yeah,
so,
I love that too.
yeah,
Wood shop was my favorite, and I was the only
best.
girl.
It's the best. Yeah. Well, that's why I became a surgeon.
I know. I almost went into orthopedics because I loved it so much, and
Yeah,
then it
I was
wasn't.
ortho was my second choice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
That's so funny.
but since childhood, I've kind of been like that, where I just don't want to stop. But I'm always exhausted because I really burn the candle at both ends. Like it's never ending for me. And for you, I mean, you have a different life now. You have parenting. You have 3 kids, so so you're doing that. Whereas I'm trying to. Ever since I've been single, I've been trying to like travel the world now.
Yeah.
And I try to mix it with work. So
Yeah.
if somebody says, okay, come lecture in Brazil, I'm like, well, Brazil's a good place to go. So I'm like, okay, definitely got to go to Brazil.
Yeah, I do the same thing. And I try to take the kids with me as much as I can. So I just took them to Utah. We went to Copenhagen together. We've been to Monaco, Paris. I try to take them with me so they don't think that I'm choosing work over them.
Yeah, now I just want to travel more.
Yeah.
So, I mean, not now.
Now.
We're going to wait, but yeah.
It's so funny. I want to travel less. I'm like, you know what? Staying at home and being able to like tend to your own surroundings has been so great. I was just thinking, August typically in my practice is a slower month because people are either away or they're getting ready to go back to school with their, back to school with their kids or whatever. So I'm just thinking, what if I just took August off and didn't go anywhere? Just like stayed home, enjoyed the house, went swimming with my kids, stuff like that. That's kind of where my mindset is right now.
Yeah, I want to do that. And funny enough, taking the time off the past, week and a half or so, it has not satiated my need for relaxation. It just kind of wakes me up more and more. Every day I sleep normally.
Yeah.
And I always wake up when the sun hits my eye, but every day I sleep normally makes me want it more. Every day I wake up, I keep thinking, what the hell was I doing? Waking up at 5 a.m. every day.
You're crazy.
With the alarm, working till, and it's hard. If you work 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., 9 p.m., and then you go home, you have to eat. And then by that time you're done. And you have to maybe catch up on one other thing. So everyone keeps saying, like a mouse in a wheel, a rat in a wheel. I was in the wheel. And now when I go back, I have to figure out how to shake it to relax it. Because I enjoy doing this. Like I enjoy, here's my new little project. I want to call Sheila and see if she wants to do like a talk with me. It's a fun little project. I got little headphones now. I got this mixer thing. So I want to do this for a little bit now. Like it's fun for me.
It's so funny because like I have like 5 businesses running at once and I'm kind of like the opposite. I'm like, why am I like killing myself doing these like, other side things where I could just be focused on like 2 things and then spend time with my kids and make sure my house isn't falling apart. Like I'm kind of like coming around the other way. I've been in that where I have so many running projects going at once. But what it does is it doesn't give you a break. This is good because you're inspiring people, you're creating connections. But with half the stuff I do, I'm just like, why? It taxes your staff, it taxes you. And you can be spending that time doing nothing, which is okay.
Yeah.
Or other things.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. I had my friend last year, Aaron Rollins, I'm sure you know him.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Miami and I go to his house and he's showing me his new life. And he says, because he thought about this several years ago. And he said, why am I working so hard? I need to figure something out. And he got very lucky. He did figure something out. He's a very smart guy and he doesn't want to operate every day, all day until he burns out and dies. Right now he's chilling in his house in Miami and enjoying life. And he was the one we're different people, but he tried to wake me up to that. And when he was telling me, I'm like, no, I love working. I'm like, even if I retire, I still want to operate. And realistically, I might want to.
Yeah. But then that's a choice. And it's not like we've created this sort of overhead monster that doesn't give us the choice. And I think that a little bit for both of us, that's kind of what we've done. We've created these like massive practices with massive overheads that we've taken that choice away from ourselves.
Yeah, my overhead's like nothing. It's like 0.
Yeah, right.
I try not to think about it during the Corona times when you can't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we're all going to be out for a little while. I know that there's a bunch of the surgeons in the country that were trying to resist, and then now they're seeing, okay, well, you got to take time off. You can't operate right now. And even when we go back, like I was talking with Sheila before, we might not be safe quite yet to go back to operating even once the bans. So everybody else can go back to work, but we are in people's faces, getting exposed to bodily fluids for elective surgeries. So we got to really figure out when it's safe to do so. Like I always tell people, like, we're not like real doctors. We're doctors, but we're not like real. You have to go like, some things we do, you have to go do because you're helping someone with a skin cancer or something like that. But we're in the fluff world at this point. It's elective.
At this point we are. I mean, I think our training is like so huge and broad based, but after 7 years of working in aesthetics, I agree that we've become, more fluff.
We're the fluff doctors. And I'm happy to be the fluff doctor. It's an artistic endeavor. It's like, it's fun. It's, that's how I picked doing this. Was at first I was doing like the cancer stuff, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to do cancer. And then I'm like, oh yeah, well, I'll do recon and free flaps. And then I like, you know what? I'm like, I want the stuff that's technically difficult, not necessarily going to ruin my life or save someone's life, but I want stuff that's technically fun for me, for my hands. And then I have this never ending desire to make people happy, which my mom thinks is an illness.
Yeah, that is an illness. You got to get over that. Because people prey on that.
Yeah, I've been through that. So
yeah,
we attract other types of energy. But yeah, either way, I mean, I'll start seeing the positive in people again more in the dating life and normal life. And I think everybody at this point is seeing, I'd say, the positive in people, because a lot of people are being woken up to not being selfish, which is a good thing for everybody to see. Maybe people like us need to be a little bit more, I don't know, but get a balance. But people are seeing that being selfish is hurting people.
Yeah.
Even just with this, like strictly a Corona thing, the people who are being selfish and doing things for themselves and not listening, they're the ones making it worse for everybody. And so all those people who kept telling me, well, I'm going to, vote for this person because you're supposed to vote selfishly. I'm like, well, you should really think about the world. Because if the world is not better off, you're going to suffer somehow. If you want to make a selfish decision, that's really the way to look at it. But I've seen that a lot of my friends who would have thought selfishly before right now are like, okay, no, we need to work. The same people sending me, you need to donate this, you need to help your friends, you need to call your grandpa. I'm like, weren't you the guy telling me to do everything selfishly? Like literally 1 month ago.
Yeah.
1 month ago, they're sending me this.
I know.
And now they're acting like that. And hopefully it'll wake up the ignorant people in the country or people who are racist and hate other countries. And they're like, okay, well, this is nobody's fault. Like you can't blame anybody. It doesn't help anything. You don't blame people. You instead live your life. Shit happens, and then you all help each other kind of through it. So I think we have our own little minor things to learn, and then we see these major things that like the world might be learning at the same time.
I don't know. For me, I think there's so much work to be done. Just, in my immediate family, I'm kind of focusing on that right now. What I do think is frustrating is a lot of people say like, oh, like I've had people be like from, where I trained, and they're like, we need masks. And I'm like, okay, well, how do I get it to you? And they're like, we don't know. I think there's just I don't know. We need to come up with better ways to coordinate so that the surgeons in the community can help.
Yeah, surgeons and there's a lot of like medical companies and used medical companies. The used medical supply companies hopefully will figure out a way to help. I haven't heard of any being involved yet, but they're the ones with like a huge surplus of
surplus of ventilators and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
Isn't this crazy? Can you believe it?
I'm still like,
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's been like 2 weeks of this.
Yep. And it's going to uptick next week, maybe.
In like 2 weeks, like our lives and our outlook totally changed. And it's just, it took a pandemic to make us stop and think.
Yeah. And we live in LA, and LA is not, can you imagine being in New York right now? Like New York.
My sister's in New York right now.
Yeah. So how long, I lived in New York 7 years. How long were you there?
I was there 8 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And New York, that's possibly the worst place to be, I think, in the US for being part of a pandemic, because everybody lives in these apartment buildings and walk-ups and the same elevators. And
also, like when you're quarantined at home, you're quarantined in a matchbox.
Yeah. And you go nuts. Yeah. My friends in Sao Paulo, I was just FaceTiming with one this morning, and he's stuck in his condo. He can't go anywhere. Whereas me, thankfully, like I'm like, oh, I'm in a house. I can like walk around. Yeah. It's tough, but it makes you also want to change where you live and make it brighter, bring in more sunlight somehow. Like I'm doing everything to make it more outdoorsy. I
know.
Yeah. So we have a lot of like questions too for people who wanted to ask. The first was actually like, what do you think, is there going to be any effect or change on like telehealth?
Oh my God. I know in my practice, I decided, and I don't know how you feel about this, but I decided that the first meeting I have with patients is going to be telemedicine. And the second meeting will be in person. I'm going to switch it up because I've been doing consults virtually right now for the last 2 weeks, and it's so much nicer.
Yeah.
Like you can connect with people. You don't have to make them drive, take time off from work. Like you just schedule half an hour and you're able to give them really good advice and at least an idea of cost. And instead of making them take time off of work just to come in and be like, oh, I can't afford that, or, oh, I don't want to do that, or whatever it is, you give them an idea of what you think would be best. And then if they're down, then they come in and take that time off. And so I think it's going to be a huge, I don't know, like a lift off of the front office because they don't have to be processing so many people. It'll make a better patient experience for people who are there to treat that day because they don't have to wait because there's new consults. Yeah. So I just think it's going to change the way I practice medicine completely.
Nice. And maybe you could teach me how you do it if you're going to have like consultants involved or anything. Because right now, like the way I go, I don't get lunch. I don't get, I don't
get lunch either. I never do. That's why somebody was texting, don't give this girl coffee. I drink 2 of these a day. We both live on like caffeine. I'm sure I have adrenal insufficiency at this point. Like
probably. I can't drink caffeine. If I drink caffeine, I get cracked out.
Well, yeah, because you're like naturally
I go out like
caffeinated.
This and then I become like a crackhead.
No, I need it. So I don't know. I just we'll figure it out, but I think it's going to be what is expected almost because we're all very busy. Like who wants to take that time just to go get an idea of what is needed? This has changed me completely.
Yeah, I think I'm going to do also, I've been doing a lot of virtual consults, but I think now I'll be more open to doing people from LA because before I'd say, if you live in LA, come to the office.
Just come in. That's what I'd say too.
I'd rather see you in person, but realistically, they have to wait a while and everybody's annoyed at me because my schedule, I can't fix it. It's not like, and people come in like, why don't you fix it? I'm like, you don't understand how it works. my schedule is not fixable. I'm like, I don't know how else to do it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm going to start doing it for people in LA too. I was just like you. I was just doing it for people from out of town. And why not offer that to people in LA?
Yeah.
Especially with LA traffic, it's worse.
Yeah, I'm going to start doing it. I think the rest of the doctors in the world have more of a reason to do it than we do too, just for, you see kind of exposing yourself to everything. I think my immunity was best when I was in my pediatric rotation because you get sick so much, right?
I was sick the entire time.
You're sick the entire time and the rest of the year you don't get sick at all.
Yeah.
So there's a question as to why you're such a badass.
Why are you such a badass, Ben?
No, it's about you. It has the flames on it.
No, that's about you.
I'd say Sheila's a badass because she does what she wants.
I do.
That's the main thing is that you don't, the way you've practiced and the way you teach everybody is actually like, you don't look at other doctors necessarily to follow them for how you run the model of your world or your business or anything. You kind of do what you think is going to work and you learn from
the thing is like, you don't look at doctors, you look at experts.
Yeah.
So if I'm looking how to give patients a better experience, I don't look at doctors. I look at hotels. Yeah. Or I look at Louis Vuitton. You know what I mean? So I think that's what I do is I try to go to where that's been done before and it's been done really well. So I don't think I would go to doctors for business advice.
They're possibly the worst.
Including me, including myself.
No, I know. What I like to use is my dad. I use my dad as a gauge. I hope he's like watching. So I use him as a variant. My dad's super intelligent. Yeah. Okay.
Apple doesn't fall far.
But no. He's like he's a really smart guy and he's like real intelligent. He's not like like me. But he doesn't. His ideas are generic in the business world.
Yeah.
He's here. See, so I like to use him as he does everything beautifully in terms of like running my life and like I couldn't live without him for my office and things like that. But if it ever comes to like marketing ideas or this and that, he'll come up with the most generic thing that every doctor has done that's kept every doctor stale and kind of been where they've been forever. Yeah. Because that's his mindset. He has a very doctor-like mindset. Yeah. And so every time he comes up with something and I have a completely different idea, it fuels me because then I'm like, oh, yes, I was right. I need to do what I was going to do.
You're like my daughter. It's like her goal in life to prove me wrong.
Yeah.
She's like, I know better than you.
Well, it's my confirmation. That's how like
Yeah,
I figure out I'm like, okay, I made the right decision because everything I've done is against what other doctors would do initially or put
same.
themselves, at risk for, or what my mom and my sister disagree with every, single thing too, because they like the safe kind
Yeah.
of proven ways that people do, but safe and proven hasn't really worked out great for
Well,
everybody.
it doesn't differentiate you. That's the thing. And you're not really being true to yourself at that point.
Yeah. Again, as I said,
So,
we're obsessed with growth. So it's
yeah, obsessed with growth.
obsessed with growth.
But now, I mean, I think like what I've realized throughout this whole pandemic is that growth can be internal too. And I think that both of us have really ignored that, because when you're so busy helping other people and so busy traveling and growing and studying this and learning that and fixing this, and, you kind of ignore yourself a little bit, your friends, your family. And I think that like I've called my dad every single day throughout this whole thing. I usually
No,
called
don't
him
say
like
that
once a week.
no, because then mine's gonna be like, why aren't you calling every single day?
So yeah, I think that it's okay to sort of take this time to grow a little bit internally and organize your house or whatever it is, bring more light in, create a more uncluttered space, whether that's in your head, in your home, virtually, in your emails, whatever it is, in your office, whatever that means to you. I think that just leads to a better quality of life and this sort of like peace that we don't gift ourselves ever.
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten back to things that I like to do. The only thing left is like racing cars and boats. The boat,
Favela.
yeah. Well, I used to race a lot, and so the boat I can't because I sold it.
Hmm.
So there's no more racing
You
there. And then
sold the boat?
yeah, the not the one that sank,
I
the
know.
one that kept exploding. So the one that I blew
Oh, that's not good.
I blew three motors, three drives. It happens when you drive 100 plus miles an hour for an hour straight. Like,
This guy's psycho. See, I told you the badass fire emojis were for you and your boat.
but the cars were like, I couldn't race anymore because I was so exhausted on the weekends. I didn't
Yeah.
want to go and take my car to the track. And so I completely have given up this past year. I haven't been to the track once. And it's
Yeah.
something that I was obsessed with my whole life. Even in undergrad when I had like no money,
Yeah.
I had a race car. And in med school when I had no money, I had a race car. And I had a boat. And I was still doing that stuff because I was obsessed
Hmm.
with it. The thing that knocked me out of it was moving to New York. New York, you can't have
No.
that stuff. And then finally, at some point, I got my Mini Cooper
Hmm.
in New York. And I have people to this day, when I give lectures at meetings, they come up to me and they say, "Hey, Ben, I don't know if you remember me." I'm like, "Yeah, of course I remember you." They're like, "Well, I'll never forget when I came to New York and you came
Yeah.
and picked me up from my hotel and you took me to Dr. Giacono's office." I'm like, "Why? What do you mean?" He goes, "I thought I was going to die that morning." And I've heard this from like several people because I used to go, my Mini Cooper was the way I got my angst out for like racing, and I couldn't
Yeah.
race really in New York. I did actually, I went to the track a bunch of times, but I would just go sweeping, like drifting across the Queensboro Bridge or,
You're
coming out of like,
psycho. Why do you have this like, I don't know.
well, it's gone now. I'm calm now.
You're calm now?
I'm calm
Okay.
now. I'm obsessed with cars though. I don't know if you can tell, but like there's a window to my garage.
Oh, cool. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so I put that there. I'm
Yeah.
obsessed with cars. So this will give me time to really think about the hobbies though. Because even cooking, like I stopped cooking forever. And I'm like, okay, well, I got to get back to it. And I kept coming home exhausted. I didn't have the energy to cook, and especially didn't have the energy to clean a pan.
I know.
So I
How could
completely,
you? You're working like 18-hour days.
yeah, and you have to go to the market. Like I don't have time to go to the market.
Yeah, I
So
know.
now it's like I'm sitting here and I'm like, you know what? This is why I used to do it a lot because it's fun for me. In the same way that I'm doing, and it's the same thing that I do when I'm operating. I'm always like trying to do something a little different, trying to
Yeah.
improve it, trying to do stuff. So I guess we're now forcefully
We're Bikar.
yeah.
That
This
means
is
we're
like,
without work.
yeah, this is like a simulation of retirement.
I don't know. I'm super thankful for this time and the time with my family and the wake up call. Obviously, not thankful for a pandemic, but just trying to find the silver lining for sure.
Yeah. All right, cool. So I was looking at any other questions we had. Oh, so a lot of people want virtual consultations with you now.
Let's do this.
And then what do you think about the pizza gang? Um, how do you differ from other social media surgeons around Beverly Hills? I don't know.
That's a good one.
I don't know.
How do you think you differ?
I never identified myself as a social media surgeon.
But you are.
Am I? Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess my whole thing, the whole reason I started doing Instagram and Facebook is it's like 5 years ago that things got busy with it, right? So
Yeah.
back then I was doing it just because my hands have to be doing something at all times. And I thought it was fun. It was all personal at that point. I'd like share things with my friends and like they'd all get a laugh out of it. And then like I saw some people would come and then say, "Oh my God, I didn't know you did nose jobs." And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" I'm like, "I'm a facial plastic surgeon, man." I'm like, "You with me in New York when I was doing, ENT." They're like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." So, and then I got on this like kick of like, okay, you know what? I got to show people what I do. That's when it started. The thing that would be different about mine is there is a very little involvement of censorship in my brain and in my with my mouth and with the way I do things on social media. So I mix things that most people would consider inappropriate, or why would you let your patients see that you go out and like party on the weekends? I'm like, if my patient cares that I go and party, I'm like, I don't want that person as a patient. Like they don't understand the difference, and it's going to be hard for me to convince them of anything logical. So I have my own reason as why I do it. But I think that's the difference of mine, is that it's a lot of social, and I just kind of put things out there. And I have my dad constantly telling me like, don't say fuck, don't say shit, don't say these things. I'm like it's okay, Dad. We're all big kids now.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
we can handle these. What about you?
I think being female is a huge differentiator in the surgery world. Being ethnic and brown, looking like a normal human being and not an alien is very differentiating in the plastic surgery world. Also, I think I barely show pictures of before and afters on my social media. I think mine is mostly about inspiring young people to become doctors, know that you can be a surgeon, you can have a family, you can continue to enjoy hobbies, you can enjoy fashion, you can enjoy all that stuff. I think showing people that just because you become a doctor doesn't mean you give up the rest of your life, and sort of serving as a role model, because I didn't have any feminine female role models in the surgery world at all. I had fantastic male role models, but nobody that showed me like, oh, you can have a family and be a surgeon. Even growing up, when I told people I wanted to be a plastic surgeon, they're like, why? As soon as you have kids, you're going to have to quit. So it's a very different experience as a female going through surgery than it is as a male. And I talk about that stuff. I talk about coming here from Iran when I was 6, not speaking English, being in ESL, having a mustache. I lay it all out there too. And I think that sort of just speaking your truth is very inspiring to people. And I think you're right in the fact that what you put out there is what you attract. And so I've been able to attract some badass people into my practice as patients that I literally will sit there and talk to them for an hour until somebody comes, knocks on the door, and they're like, you have 5 people, like you need to get out of this room. So for the most part, thank God, what you put out there and is what you attract. And then number 2, I think it's so important for any doctors watching on social media that you are on social media, because if you're not, then those review sites dictate your reputation. So your online voice, and being true and showing people who you are and how much you care, and that, all of that stuff is what they will believe now. And if somebody says something about you online, they're like, who is that person? That person must be crazy. So I think it's important professionally. And I also think it's important as it's kind of like our duty as mentors to be on social media, so that we don't leave a vacuum where people forget like, oh, being a doctor is cool, or I can have a career of any kind and continue to have a family. They're not mutually exclusive. So for you, you were saying like growth is so, it's like a drug, the growth. For me, being able to touch many lives at once is a drug too. So I think it's really cool that I can give someone, a better looking whatever, one at a time, but that's really a special connection. But for me, I crave being able to affect the masses.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And we're both always at lectures together, like teaching, and that's fun for me. My other job, other than being wanting to become a doctor, was to become a teacher.
Yeah.
growing up, and I kept trying to decide, okay, maybe I'll become a professor. And then I remember my dad wanted to do that, but ultimately I thought, okay, well, if I become a doctor, I can be a teacher too. So it's like
Yeah.
my other obsession. That's why social media is nice. You're teaching as many people, more so than you can just at these lectures. You go to these lectures and there's 1,000 people in front of you.
Right.
Is here you can have 100,000 or something listen to what you say, and it's nice. And hopefully you're right when you say things. That's all. All right, cool. So I think that's it. I'm so happy we got a chat. Yeah,
that was fun. It was good catch up for us.
Yeah, we haven't caught up for a little bit either, which was really, really nice. If you guys want to, my side of people who I'm sure everybody's already heard of you, but her Instagram page is at Dr. Sheila Nazarian. She also has at The Model Surgeon, and you have at Nazarian Institute. You have a couple
at The Skin Spot, at Spot 26.
Yeah, so if you've seen the freezethefat.com and all like the cool sculpting, all like the cool non-invasive devices that are existent, they're usually hers. So she's like the master of all that and does amazing surgery too. And then website is, I think, just Dr. Nazarian.
It's NazarianPlasticSurgery.com.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. And you guys, if you want the skincare products, I have theSkinspot.com, which is 20% off right now. So to help all the people out, so that you don't look like my nails when you come out of this.
I've got cuticles everywhere. I've only gotten like one manicure in my life.
Oh my God, I live for manicures.
And one pedicure, and they made my toenails glossy, and I lived in San Diego on the beach at the time, so for like months my toenails were glossy. So I've stopped since then. All right. Well, thanks so much, and good luck, and enjoy yourself at
Thank
home.
You. You too. Let's catch up again soon.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.